All right, welcome back to another episode of Travel Ball Talk. I'm your host, Rich Prado, owner of Play in School. Today I'm pumped. We're heading out to Dallas, Texas. We're going to hang out with the GM of the Dallas Patriots, Alex Barras. Alex, how'd I do on that last name, Alex?
Pretty good, man. Better than most.
Pretty close. That's, if you're keeping score at home, it's Alex, and it's spelled B-A-R-R-A-S. And you can look them up on the Twitter machine. I believe that's Coach. Maybe why don't you just say it, because that'd be faster than me looking it up. It's at Coach.
Yeah, Coach Alex Barras.
There we go. Coach Alex Barras. And again, it's spelled B-A-R-R-A-S for those of you keeping score at home. But so we had on, I would say, honestly, probably one of the best conversations on the podcast of all time was the owner-founder of the Patriots, Logan Stout. And so if anybody's listening to this and maybe that's their first time hearing this podcast, or they just missed the episode with Logan, you know, most of these conversations they're like two baseball guys talking baseball, but the reality is Logan is he's such a high level communicator and just an elite leader. The number of tweetable quotes and leadership nuggets that he dropped in that hour-long conversation were really impressive. And I've been a big fan of Logan and the Dallas Patriots for a very long time. So I'm pumped to get Alex on the show, who is I would say, new-ish GM of the Patriots, and we're going to get that whole story. Alex, welcome. Why don't I just hand over the mic for a second and let you introduce yourself to the listeners, and then also kind of tell us that story of how you came to be in the role that you're in with the Patriots.
Yeah, so I'm relatively young in the baseball world. I'm only 33 years old, and had a long early career at LSU. Didn't play. I was in the recruiting development department, scouting, analytics, all that whole deal. Did that for 12 years between a couple of sports, but baseball was one of mine. I had the pleasure of working with some fantastic guys. Still keep in touch with most of them to this day, and learned a whole lot. Not only from some great coaches. Coach Maneri, Alan Dunn. Alan is one of the best guys in the industry. Nolan Kane, Will Davis, just to name a few. Had the pleasure to hear how they think, how they scout, what they're looking for, and how we attack opponents, and just coming up with different tools to use in order to make sure that we were getting the best. This was before the world started kind of going towards the analytics movement, and trying to get the best advantages we could while still letting the players compete. So transitioned out of college, out of the college athletics life, and into, I call it, civilian life. Still had a kind of an itch to coach around. So started with bounced around a few places, and finally found the right fit with Logan and the Patriots. And really, at the heart of it all, man, you talked about it. Core values is what really drew me to the Patriots. A Christian-run organization. Everything we do is with the utmost integrity and respect, and that's what really is drawing to our organization. I'd like to think that we run it in the best Christ-like way we can, and so it's my job, like you said, to keep it going, to make sure that all of our guys are in that light and that we're doing what we need to do. And we have a great group of coaches, a great group of families, and I'm excited. We just finished up summer season, one of the most successful summer seasons we've ever had. If you can believe that. We've got a long storied history, but getting cranked up with fall season and ready to get back to work.
The thing I'm curious about, it sounded like in your in your quick bio there that from LSU to the Patriots wasn't the first jump. There was a thing or two in between. How does how does it become so that Logan and the Patriots, they need a GM? How does that search happen? How do you catch wind of it? And how do you end up? How do you end up? In Dallas, Texas, as the GM of one of the arguably one of the bigger and best travel ball organizations out there.
Yeah, so my wife's actually from Frisco, so it was an easy move for us to come back here and be around family. And
which happened first? You getting hired or you moving?
We moved. We moved here, and
so you were already in the area. Okay, now that makes a little more sense.
Yes, sir. And you coach for a few people, and some people, have their hearts in the right places, and they're doing this for the right reasons, and others treat this as a pure business and profit maker, and that's kind of not really what I was after. I was here to help kids. I was not here to help fill people's pockets, and like I said, core values really aligned with what Logan was doing. My wife's little brother actually is Landon Cowser. Landon, has been around the travel industry, the travel baseball world for a little bit longer than me. And he was originally hired as the GM, and life circumstances, decided that he needed to step away. So Logan was like, "Do you want to do it?" And I said, "Absolutely." So
incredible.
It was a happened upon, I guess you could call it, but at the same time, I wouldn't change it. And like I said, whether I'm the general manager or the director of recruiting, which is what I started with as it doesn't matter. This is definitely the right place to be for sure.
That's fantastic, and you probably get some, I'm guessing at the family barbecue you can rip on your brother-in-law a little bit about taking his job, but that's all in good fun. All in good fun.
He's still very much involved. He actually just had a little one about a week ago, and still very much involved with us. He's an excellent recruiter, excellent coach. And teacher, and we want him. We want him to stay engaged and involved, and he is. He just actually took our 18U group to Connie Mack about a month ago. So, he's still very much in the mix. Just couldn't handle all the day-to-day stuff.
Got it. Now, before we hit record, I was kind of joking around a little bit about a lot of the phone calls I've had for the last few weeks with coaches. That they are, oh gosh, got to build my roster. Just had tryouts, and what am I going to do with this 9U team? Or I need 3 more kids at the 11U level. And then you mentioned tryouts, and for the folks who, they probably heard of the Patriots, maybe they've heard of Logan Stout, but maybe they don't quite grasp the scale of things. Tell us how many kids come out to y'all's tryouts in the springtime for your summer teams, and then that fall tryout. Just these numbers they just boggle my mind because of the scale.
Yeah, so we'll try out kids actually starting this November and running through February 1 for the spring seasons, and we have teams from 6U all the way up to 18. And in that time span, we'll try out 2,000 to 2,500 kids that come from all over the Metroplex of Dallas, from Houston to Abilene to Amarillo. We've had kids from New Mexico. We've got a kid from Florida. I've had kids fly down from Indiana. You name it. Logan was talking to me last night that a couple kids from Arizona have inquired about coming down to try out. So, it's not just Dallas. Yeah, we're based in Dallas, but there's kids that we, for instance, we play kids, obviously all across the country, and they love what we do. They love how we do it, and they want to be a part of it. And in the fall, obviously with football, that takes a good bit of the numbers away, and the older guys and some of the youth guys too. Kids play so many sports these days. So the fall, we're it's probably between 1,000 and 1,500 kids try out. And but the way we've built, obviously we've been rated the number one brand in Texas for a number of years, and we don't have a bunch of teams just to have teams, and that's why like I said, the core value of what we do is, we want to have really good teams, and it's okay to have those conversations, I think, and a lot of guys in today's world don't want to have those conversations, but kids are gonna. At the end of the day, we want our guys and families, for that matter, to enjoy playing the game and enjoy growing in the game. And if they're not at the level that they need to be, where our teams are going to play, then we want to, make sure they're on a path that, they don't end up not liking the game because they had a bad experience.
Yeah.
Because they weren't up to the level that they needed to be. So honesty is a big part of this. I think that's something that guys don't like to have, honestly, in today's game. And they're going to take guys to take them and, make budgets and make money at the end of the day. And those guys usually don't last very long.
What? So give me a little perspective of I hang around that high school age group most, so we can focus in on that. How many teams are you having, per age, say from 15 up to 18? How many teams per age?
So in the summer, we'll have 3 teams in age group in the high school, which I consider high school 15 to 18U.
Yeah.
So we'll have 3, maybe 4, depending on if the numbers and talent warrant. But some groups are much bigger than others. Much
bigger. That's actually surprisingly low when you look at the fact that 2,500 kids came through for tryouts, and you managed to narrow it down to 3 rosters at an age group. That's actually really impressive.
Well, and you couple that with this is our 22nd year, actually 22nd going on 23rd, and in every one of those years, every kid that's graduated in our program has been afforded the opportunity. Now, did they all go play? Probably not.
Right.
Every kid's been afforded the opportunity to play college baseball, and so what we are after is guys that can make it to that next level, or we see that they can develop to get to that next level. And that goes back to, we don't want teams to just have teams. We want guys that are ready to compete at a high level. I know that compete word is something that some people don't like. We demand competition. Some people want to be handed a spot and a guarantee, and that's not how we do it at all. You got to compete for what you get, because when you get to college, guess what? You're going to be on a roster at 35, and you got to go compete your rear end off. So if they wait until college to figure out how to compete, we're not going to have a very good reputation at the end of the day.
For sure.
Our guys, Logan and myself and our coaches, we very much pride ourselves on our guys. When they get to college baseball, they're prepared, and they have we call it, they've got better IQ than the next guy. So even talent, IQ wins, right? So that we prepare them for the game, we prepare them for life, and as much as we can.
I've noticed that the kids today often get knocked on their lack of baseball savvy. They call showcase guys. Their skill sets are really clean and really mature. Their approach at the plate, their swing mechanics, their ability to field a ground ball are usually way above, anything I was able to do even at a much older age. You see some of these little kids and they're like, man, that's really clean. But what you're really harping on is let's add on top of that the baseball IQ, because at the end of the day, that's going to be a huge separator, which I love.
Yeah, and the one there's always intangibles, right? And I call it, Logan calls it grit. I call it guys got to have dog in them, right? They got to get in the box and really basically not want to lose.
Yeah,
and that's hard to find, honestly, in today's generation as coaches, especially with the younger guys. Is we're in the generation of guys looking into the stands and not looking within. And we try to teach guys to look within and try to power through things and persevere. And I know the world we live in today doesn't really teach our kids how to do that, but somebody's going to have to.
I tell you, if there's a couple things I feel like I could nitpick on that maybe just are pet peeves of mine a little bit, is when you see the kid looking in the stands, and then almost the equivalent when you're over at the facility and you got, everybody's got the gizmos and gadgets, and they're all awesome, all the technology, whether it's the Rapsodo and TrackMan and all the rest of them. They're looking up at the screen before they even complete their swing, or they're whipping their head around to look at, if they're throwing a bullpen to find the radar gun. And I'm like, man, it's like lock in on the thing that you're doing, finish the thing you're doing, and then if you need the feedback, turn your head and look at it. But don't break your neck, to look over at the video board. And same thing on the field. Don't break your neck to look for the scouts. Just play the game to win. The scouts will notice that stuff.
Yeah, I learned this a long time ago. You can go run to the video machine every time something's wrong, but when you step in that box, when you step on that rubber, that video machine's not there. So it's all about how hard are you going to compete.
Yeah. And
technology's fantastic, but we can't let them use it as a crutch.
Yeah.
It's got to be a tool and not a crutch.
Yeah.
And you're right. So many guys, I've got players that send video and they're like, what am I doing wrong? This looks great. And I'm like, yeah, your mechanics are fine.
They're perfect.
You got to, I mean,
you just missed
nothing you're doing
you just didn't square up the bat on the ball. That's what you did wrong.
I mean, the best guy to ever do it was 4 for 10, right? Ted
Yeah.
Williams. Yeah. So nobody's going to hit 1,000. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to go 4 for 4 every single game. So the game's a game of failure, and it's not very what's the word I'm looking for? It's not self-fulfilling, as much as in quick turnaround as maybe a fortnight is. But it definitely teaches some good lessons. I do agree with that.
For sure. And I heard you plug Logan's book earlier without making a direct reference to it. Title of his book, I believe, is Grit, which you referenced. He likes that word, and he I think he titled his a recent book that. So that's pretty cool. Hey, you guys.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
His book's called Grit Factor. Called Grit Factor, and it's incredibly good. It's not just about baseball. It's really about life, and it makes a whole lot of sense. I've had a bunch of people read it, parents, players, myself, and you can definitely take some really good nuggets from that book and really get a different outlook and perspective on some things.
So I'm kind of curious. The scale at which you guys operate, are y'all able to do all of that out of one facility, or do you guys have multiple facilities at this point?
No, so we actually have one. Our headquarters is up in Fieldhouse USA up in Frisco. We have a segment of that facility. We've had a pro shop up front, which we do all of our retail, our equipment out of, bats, gloves, apparel, hats, you name it, we've got it up there. And then in the back of the facility, we've got a 10 cage facility, pitching mounds in it, the whole 9 yards. So we've got all of that in our facility. So.
And if I'm not if it's the same one I was in, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, this is not a 70,000 square foot facility. It's by some accounts, some would even call it's just about modest, I would say. 10 cages is big compared to some people who are listening going, man, I only have one cage. But 10 cages is also not these mega buildings with the indoor infields and 70,000 square feet of space and turf and all that. So it's pretty impressive that y'all are able to, run what you do out of that spot.
Yeah, we the Patriots in the past have had multiple facilities, and there's groups in Dallas that have multiple spots. And really what I think happens when you have all those spots is you don't get to hone in on your product day to day. And you don't get to see your kids develop day in and day out in one spot. I may be in Frisco and somebody else may be in a different spot. And, I think if we ever did go back to the multiple facilities, we would do 2. We would not have 4 to 5 all over the place, because I really think that our biggest thing that we want to do is develop kids and young men, and when we can get them all in one spot and know what they're doing and help along their development path. We can't do that with 6 spots, and that's when you get to the money chasing side and you don't get into the true development and the well-being of those young guys.
Yeah. And I'm assuming with outdoor baseball fields, you guys are, just utilizing, just like everybody else, you're utilizing the local recs, the local high schools, local middle schools, local colleges. Is there any thoughts or possibilities of getting your own home field for the Dallas Patriots?
So we've obviously been blessed in North Texas with a ton of great turf facilities, and we've got a lot of the major tournaments are here already. We've got good relationships with some municipalities and some high schools to use as kind of our home base. Man, real estate in North Texas is not getting any cheaper right now, and fields are a huge investment. We've talked about it. It's definitely been a topic of conversation. But there's so much inventory of fields to utilize around. There's really no need.
Well, that's
to pay upkeep and to do all that. If you can, the name of this game in travel ball is relationships, and what relationships you have and are able to maintain. And we've got a ton of great relationships in town, around the Metroplex, outside of the Metroplex. When we go to East Cobb in the summer, we're able to, practice the day before we start, at whether it be a JUCO or through a high school somewhere there. Again, the more you can maintain your relationships and keep good partnerships and have good places to do it.
Well, that's interesting. You guys, you guys have a unique advantage. You're saying there's fields everywhere. There's some parts of the country where fields are actually really hard to come by. So that's a nice advantage you have. But it also sort of reminds me of what's the saying? The best boat is your friend's boat. So having a field, while it'd be nice, also comes with a lot of other problems, like maintaining it. And so sometimes just like, hey, let me borrow the field for a couple hours is way better. Just like, hey, let me borrow your boat for the weekend, and then I'll return it to you on Monday is way better. than having to deal with the upkeep. So different strategies, I suppose. But let's, I'm looking at the clock here, and I want to be respectful of your time. And I sent you a couple questions earlier. First question, I've been asking people this. I actually had to adjust the question. The question used to be just what book, but now I say, hey, listen, there's a lot of ways to learn. Some people, there's websites, there's movies, there's podcasts, and there's books, and a whole bunch of other things. So do you have, besides Logan's book, because I know you want to recommend the Boss's book to everybody, but besides Logan's book, is there a book or other resource or a movie that you think that every coach should pick up and learn from?
Yeah, I think I'm unique. I've read Sean Payton's book. That's fantastic. Really, getting as much information. I enjoy watching Hard Knocks, right? Watching how guys, how coaches in any sport, how they deal with situations, how their temperament does when things may or may not go the right way, and getting that behind the scenes retrospect is always good. I think one of the best ones I've ever watched was an Amazon series on the Cardinals with Bruce Arians when he was still at Arizona. That was fantastic just to watch him, from day to day and how he deals with, the stresses of coaching. YouTube has become a good friend. I would just encourage anybody to consume as much. These guys that are the best have a ton of content, right? I mean, you can go watch Urban Meyer. I was watching something the other day. It just popped across, and it was when he was at Ohio State talking about recruiting. Yep. And, guys can go to showcases, this, that, and the other, but you're focusing on the wrong things. And, obviously you go down the list, Nick Saban to Mike Krzyzewski and some of those guys, and then you go into the baseball world, and obviously there's a ton of great guys in our baseball world. But
I wanted to go back to that Sean Payton before I forget about it. I just Googled Sean Payton book, and there's a couple of them. I'm assuming, let's see, there's one called Home Team. Is that the one you're referencing? It says coaching the Saints and New Orleans back to life. Is that the one?
Yes, sir.
With looks like on the cover he's got his hands up in the air. All right, it's Home Team by Sean Payton. That sounds like a pretty good one to pick up.
Yeah, it was really good. It talks about how they came back from Katrina and everything that he had to go through and all the way back to the Super Bowl and how all that looked. And it was great to just see the inside of, it's easy just to say, oh, we're in a terrible situation and this is how we may or may not get out of it. But it's another thing to have a vision and drive and not let anybody else tell you how it's going to go.
That was a dynamic duo that with him and Breeze. Really was. I tell you, I know everybody loves Breeze, but I feel like he's almost in some ways still underrated, if that's even possible. Look, in the interest of time, I'm gonna jump to what is usually my last question, because this one usually opens up a can of worms and sends us in a variety of directions, and I'm pretty interested to hear your take. And I want to make sure we give this question as much time as it needs. So again, I'm going to hand you the magic wand. And if you could change one thing that would make to the travel ball industry that would make the biggest positive impact, what do you think you would change?
There's so many good things that are going on. I think allowing guys the opportunity to be in the right places, to get that exposure, that true exposure that they need. The one thing that I would change, and obviously this is, you're talking to a wall sometimes when you talk about the industry, because everybody's got their own pigeonhole ideas. But You know, there's so many places to go play, right? There's so many different tournament offerings that compete, and you know, the big events are the big events, and we're kind of starting to get into a crowded room scenario where they're starting to climb over the top of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we got big events at the same time as other big events, and then we got these, you know, showcase games that are trying to pull kids off of the team to go play in this all-star game. And
Mm-hmm.
I guess the thing that I would change is, you know, let these kids be a part of the team. And that's what we really teach, you know, is, you know, if we're going to do something, we're going to do it as a team. You know, this is a baseball club. It's not a baseball player. And while these games are fantastic and great, and I think they do have a purpose and a place, let our kids be where they need to be during the summer. Let them be part of their team. Let them be with their friends. Let them be with their teammates. Let them know what that's like to build camaraderie, and let our kids go play the game as a team, because they can't do it by themselves. And I think our industry has gotten into a very much individuality.
Mm-hmm.
I guess is the individualistic type of realm, where it's all about one player on one team and not about the team.
Mm.
It's all about the player rankings and not the team rankings or you know, what the team did. And yeah, there's going to be great players at these events, but you know, the best players play on the best teams. You know, some may or may not be the case, but for the most part, the best players play on the best teams. That would be the biggest thing that I would change is, you know, take all this individual stuff out of the summertime. These kids got all the time in the world to go do that, right?
Yeah.
August, September, let them go play in the All-American games. Let them go do the showcases. But, I mean, you've got these guys that we're going to their tournaments, and they're having dueling All-American showcases the same weekend, and it's putting kids in a vulnerable position. Well, do I really want to go to this, or do I really want to go here?
Right.
This is they're telling me that there's going to be 100 college coaches, but they're also saying there's going to be 100 college coaches here. You know, and then the second thing is, I would say, false advertisement. Trying to sell kids something that is not right. I mean, there's leagues, there's tournaments. They say, oh, there's going to be over 100 college coaches there. You show up, you say, well, all right, where they at? Or, hey, can I get a list of who showed up? No, we're not going to give that to you. Yeah, because I know the truth.
Yeah.
You know, it's tough to wade through some of those waters, especially, you know, when you have as many teams as we are, and you know, we want to make sure our kids are in. You know, and at the end of the day, this isn't free for the parents either. Okay, so we got to make sure they're getting the best bang for their buck.
Correct.
And that what we're giving them is, you know, what is warranted, what's best for their child, and best for the player, and best for his career. So, again, I like I said, I don't want to ramble on too long, but I would say those are I wouldn't say one change. I'd say two changes. Is the false information. And, you know, to go along with that, let these kids play on teams.
Let's talk about, I want to kind of put my 2 cents in on each one of those. The team thing versus the individual thing shouldn't, in most circumstances, it shouldn't even really come into play if we scheduled those correctly, right? But when they're overlapping, now what do? You know, I want to go to this, but I also want to go to that. That's such a tough thing. But if we could schedule correctly, if those individual events were relocated to a different part of the calendar, it doesn't seem like that would seem to like the smart move. The false advertising one is one that really gets me. You know, if you're running an event and you're paying coaches to be there, right? Because that happens. Then You're paying coaches to be there. Then you can confidently advertise that these people are going to be there and they're going to be in the stands. And that's cool. But if you're not paying coaches to be there, then the event shouldn't – why would they even say that anybody's going to be there? The only thing the event is doing is we're going to make the schedule, we're going to secure these fields, and we've got these teams coming. And do those things well. Like, do that really well. Get good fields, put out a good schedule, and have good teams. If you do those things, well, the coaches should come, but don't set yourself up for disappointing somebody because you promised that some college coach was going to be there. Because they're not coming for the event. They're coming to see the kid who plays for the team that's there. So that's a weird thing. I've seen it myself, and the reality is it's the event company could just not trip on themselves by making these false promises. That really stinks. That's a thing that's an easy fix for those guys. Well, Alex, we could keep going, except both of us have other places to be here. So I want to give you sort of the last word. If you have any other parting shots for coaches that might be listening, or parents, or even players, you have any parting words of wisdom?
Yeah, I mean, I would always say that our number one goal and what's kept us successful is taking care of our kids. I see it too often where there's youth guys that are throwing 140 pitches. For what? You know what I mean? For what? The ego as a coach in this industry is very, it's easy to chase. Mm-hmm. And we see it on a weekly basis of guys that want to win, I guess to get their kid a meaningless T-shirt or a trophy, or to say that we won the tournament. But putting a kid's health at risk is not worth it at all. Mm-hmm. I would challenge parents to always, seek an opinion on what's best for your kid. Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, us as coaches, we're their professional advice.
Yeah.
The parents, whether our coaches want to believe it or not, I tell our guys, you are their advice givers. You are their guidance. And they are looking to you to tell them what's best for their kid. And so I would say, to all the coaches out there, nothing is worth a kid's health. We have a long track record of taking care of kids, not letting them get hurt, keeping them healthy, because they can't get recruited if they're hurt. Mm-hmm. No kid's health is worth a ring or a banner. We've gotten plenty. Logan just won the BCS National Championship down in Florida about a month ago. And every kid on that team was tip-top healthy, and they had played over 50 games this summer. So, it can be done. It just takes, having the right guys and not put yourself in a position that you shouldn't be because of an ego. And that's my advice to coaches everywhere in the travel ball industry is put your ego aside. Put it aside and do what's best for your kids.
Awesome. Alex, thanks for coming on. It's been a long time trying to line up schedules, man, so I appreciate you making the time today. Please say hello to Logan, and you and I will be in touch real soon, I'm sure.
Yes, sir. I appreciate the time and excellent. Love what you're doing here. We need more people like you in the sport, and all the big boys, the Perfect Games and everything. They do their podcasts, but they want you to hear their message, not ours. So, I nothing against them. They do a fantastic job.
They're good at what they do.
I love what you're doing here, and I appreciate the time for sure.
You got it, man. Talk soon, okay?
Sounds good, man.
See ya.